It's time for the first major patch since season 2025 kicked off. And with the first few weeks feeling like a pre-season, let's see all the changes Riot are shipping here to nerf some of the new OP stuff and buff some champions or systems that may be struggling. We're looking at you AD carry mates. So first up, let's have a look at the objective and system changes, and one of the first things to talk about is the changes to feats of strength, where first blood will no longer count as one and instead it'll be the first 3 kills. This is a pretty huge change already and one that a lot of players were hoping for, so a nice W from Riot here. Atakhan has been controversial so far to say the least, and Ruinous Atakhan has shown up in the majority of games. So Riot are making the voracious odds more frequent, but nerfing the revival passive side of it slightly, as it's been a bit too much on the strong side so far. Blood Roses have been giving too much experience and adaptive force that they're being nerfed, and there's also some minor changes to the Homeguard radius and duration, just so you aren't zooming back to lane too quickly. Now let's get on to one of the biggest topics recently, which is the power of AD carries and their issue with simply tickling tanks. Riot are now buffing some AD carry items this patch, with Lord Dominate's Regards and Mortal Reminder gaining 5% more armor pen and increasing the cost of both items by 100 gold. Not only that, but they're also buffing Yontal Wild Arrows, giving it 10% more attack speed, which is now 35%, but increasing its gold by 100. Overall, these item changes are a massive step in the right direction for the AD carries problems. I mean, we've simply seen so many bot lanes just playing mages instead for the last few months, so let's see if these buffs finally help fix these issues. Assassins are another archetype that has just been struggling massively recently. Now, nothing too crazy is coming for them this patch, but Riot have addressed their concerns about them in general, and they're aiming to get them back up to speed soon. This patch, they're starting by buffing the 3 new Domination Vision Runes, reducing the cooldown on 6 cents, buffing Grizzly Mementos by increasing the Trinket ability haste per stack and reducing the max stacks, and Deep Ward's Trinket duration is increasing too. So as I said, these aren't going to make Assassins OP, but it's good to know they aren't being forgotten about. Let's move on to the champion changes next then and have a look at some of the buffs and nerfs. Starting off with the nerfs, and here we have Cassiopeia, Irelia, Tahm Kench and Viktor. So Riot shipped some buffs last patch to Cassiopeia due to the fact she can't buy boots as she doesn't have feet, but these buffs generally just made her way too strong, with her having a super high win rate in various roles. She was just far too speedy with the passive additional movement speed from feats of strength, so this is being nerfed. Irelia has been a bit too OP recently as well, ever since Riot gave her some quality of life changes which just ended up being huge buffs. So this patch they're nerfing her W's, E's and ultimates base damage. Now it isn't going to stop her from stacking her passive on a wave and forcing early fights, but it will help with a bit less overall burst. Tahm Kench has been terrorizing games for a while now, especially so at lower ranks, and it's about time we saw some nerfs really, so Riot are reducing his Q's base damage at all ranks. Finally, Viktor has already seen his name multiple times in the patch notes since his update after Arcane Season 2, and he's easily one of the most contested picks in the game, and it's not really too hard to understand why with how strong he's been. Riot are nerfing his Q's basic attack AP ratio from 60% down to 50%, and his ultimate's AP ratio per tick down from 45 to 35%. Moving on to the champion buffs though, here we have Evelynn, Master Yi, Malzahar, Kayn, Smolder and Yuumi. Evelynn has been well and truly invisible for a while now, and aside from smurfing in low elo, this champion doesn't really have too much of a place in the meta, and hasn't for some time. This patch, her E's movement speed is being buffed pretty heavily from 30% flat, increasing to 50% at max rank. Her ultimate's AP ratio is also being buffed though from 65 to 75%, and these buffs are pretty big to be honest, so definitely watch out for her in solo queue this patch. Malzahar is getting some minor quality of life updates to his W, the damage now updates for the live voidling when Malzahar levels up, and the tooltip is updated to show the full damage. Blue Kayn's passive is being buffed, Smolder's Q's crit strike chance ratio can now be increased with Infinity Edge, and Yuumi's getting her passive heal AP ratio increased, the cooldown buffed, and her ultimate's damage increased too. Finally, before we finish up, Swiftplay has been a pretty big success so far, with plenty of players enjoying the faster paced version of the Summoner's Rift. But it does come with its own balance issues, so Riot have included a bunch of changes here too, with buffs to Qiyana, Rengar and Sivir along with champions kit gold, so Pyke, Gangplank and TF, and we've also got nerfs to QoL, Malzahar, Nilah, Singed, Teemo, Trundle, Urgot, Yorick and Zyra. Well, that wraps up all the changes in the second patch of Season 2025, or 25.S1.2, or 15.2, or whatever you want to call it really. We'll be back this week with our new tier list for the patch, as well as some content all about the latest champion who'll be arriving this week too in Mel Madada. Thanks for watching guys, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.